Hey everybody, it's your girl Bunny. To all of my returning subscribers, hey, how you doing? And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Kick your feet up, subscribe to this family-friendly channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any posts. Also follow me on Instagram at the same profile name so you don't miss the sneak peeks of what's coming up next. In this video, it's Atlanta Season 3, Episode 7, entitled Trini to the Bone. I give a full episode recap with photos offset to the side, and then I give my review at the end. No need to dig around and keep all of the minute marks in the comments. It's all coming up next. An early morning jog in the city as the runner listens to trap music. When he returns home, it's a busy morning. Sylvia isn't anywhere to be found, leaving the day starter routine responsibilities up for grabs. His son won't eat the eggs Benedict his mom ordered for him. It's too bland. He wants spicy curry mango seasoning on the top. The dad is confused about what it is, but the son points to the fridge. Gladly, there's sauce prepared in Tupperware. Now everything will taste better, and not even the dad can take the spice of the sauce. As the mom prepares to take Bash to school, Miles receives unfortunate news. Sylvia has passed away. The caller doesn't have all of the details of her passing just yet. There's a knock at the door with a mysterious parcel addressed to Sylvia. Bash is sad that Sylvia can't take him to school or pick him up, but the mother remains discreet as to why she's missing. Her son notices that she's sad and stressed, and he suggests taking a yoga ocean breath of fresh air. This technique actually helps a lot. At the end of the workday, Miles calls to check up on his wife. She's holding up considering the circumstances. She notes to Miles that when she dropped off their son, the teacher asked her in front of Bash, why weren't they present at the parent picture day? They can't be the only parents that didn't show up. Also, that Sylvia used to walk Bash to his class each morning. She didn't just drop him off. Now the difficult part. How will they tell Bash about Sylvia? They shouldn't lie to him or exclude information. Sylvia was a big part of his life. If they don't say anything, he will think that death is a bad thing. This will be a teachable moment, Miles thinks. When everyone is settled for bed, they ease into the conversation. The dad attempts to bring up the memory of an old dog they used to have, but his wife stops that analogy. Since Bash loves dinosaurs, she takes a different approach. Things go extinct, and when you're old, you can fall asleep and never wake up. Bash points out that they're old, so maybe this will happen to them soon. It's awkward, but Miles takes a dive right in saying Sylvia died. Unfortunately, she can't come back to say goodbye. There's a special ceremony to say goodbye. They will consider going to the funeral. Bash even thinks that maybe she went back to Trinidad and Tobago. There's another knock at the door with no indication of a person who delivered it. Another parcel for Sylvia reading second attempt. Browyn can't believe how much stuff Sylvia had around the house. There were a lot of wigs and clothes. Maybe they shouldn't have hired someone so old. Miles thinks that they should reach out to the family and take Bash to the funeral. He did mention that he wanted to see her. She thinks that it's too much for a kid, but Miles insists that he read that Americans make death too foreign. It's like a scary thing. The living room actually used to be the housing area to view a dead body. He's got a word from Sylvia's daughter that the service should start around 10, but Browyn drowns out the details of the funeral with the next caretaker details. Maybe the next one should be more metropolitan, or better yet, Sebastian could even be fluent in Mandarin. Ooh, that would be great. Metropolitan would be expensive. Do you know how difficult it is to find a Chinese nanny right now? Bash startles his mom as they both didn't hear him walk to the room. He can't sleep. He's scared. He requests that his mother soothe him like Sylvia did, rubbing his back in a circular motion while singing a song. Sweet, sweet TNT, Trini to the bone. She doesn't know that song, but sings something else instead. She tells him everything will be okay. They're all together, safe, and not to worry. But Bash says, I feel worried. The next day, it's on the way to the funeral. They can't believe how far out in the city they're going. They stop to ask if Sylvia's funeral is close, but the guys on the block don't take the time to answer. Khadijah, Sylvia's daughter, comes outside to greet everyone. Richard calls out Cockroach to the car, and Sebastian responds, "Cockroach has no place at Fowl Party." Khadijah is excited to meet Bash. Her mother would speak about him all the time. She wants them to stay for the wake and eat good food. Sebastian knows the welcome indeed. It's better belly bust than good food waste. You know me heart. Miles gets the car parked and he's instructed to leave the car keys on the hood and Richie will take care of everything. Bash does do a great job though viewing the body as it seems to bring him peace. As they sit down, the family welcomes them. They must have been the Warners. Sylvia always said great things about their family. Devin offers his services for childcare. He's been a Little League coach, spiritual therapist, and even installs televisions when he has the time. He gives Miles his card and a family member hits him on the head to stop the disrespect. Curtis then introduces himself. Sylvia was his babysitter too. He's adapted the Trinidad accent, but he's from Tribeca, which brings a much-needed comical laugh. As the preacher arrives, he wants everyone to bow their heads in prayer. As he refers to the book of Psalms, Bash repeatedly says, "Yes, Lord," and "Amen," along with the prayer. After the prayer, he acknowledges Sylvia's accomplishments, her beautiful children and grandchildren. She was a passionate child care professional to many children in New York City. Before child care, she was a ballet dancer at the Alan Ailey Dance Company in Harlem, mixing Trinidadian and African dance. She was the first in her family to move to New York and also sent money to her family. That comment gets eye rolls and sucking of teeth from their kids in the pews. He continues, she even tried to get her other siblings to the States as well, including her sister Nancy, whose son Oswald is the wide receiver for the Patriots. Miles is then excited. He can't believe that Oswald James is related to their nanny. The preacher continues, and Bash adds even more amens to the crowd. Now the family shouts out even more and the flow is even louder. Miles gets a strange text with an odd photo, but he brushes it off to Bronwyn. He shifts in his seat now, seeming uncomfortable. Some dancers from an alumni high school taught by Sylvia start traditional dances before the ending of the ceremony. The song of choice is Trini to the Bone. Now Bash is super excited. The song begins and it brings everyone joy with smiles. As everyone claps, one of Sylvia's daughters, Princess, is determined to break the mood. She rushes the pulpit, demanding for everyone to stop the dancing. Khadijah tries to stop her, but Princess continues to rant. She's upset that her mother sacrificed taking care of them to take care of others. Where was she when her brother got jumped in town or when her laptop got stolen? Her brother tries to soothe her, telling her that mom did what she could to take care of us. She hits the casket screaming, "Where were you when we needed you?" This causes a domino effect of the family and other members start remembering their anger at each other and even a fight breaks out. It's a complete mess and Devin tries to calm everyone down. "Look, you're scaring the white people." He even asks Bash, "Are you afraid?" And he says yes. He tells him, "Hey, it's okay. We just sad. This how we sad." It's a quiet car ride, but Miles slightly sings, "Sweet, sweet, sweet TNT." But that doesn't help. Miles checks on Bash and he's okay. Bash even says goodnight, Sylvia, to the rocking chair she used to sit in. Miles is fascinated, telling Bronwyn that the origins of the limo dance is just amazing. Apparently, slaves would do the mimic of the hold going down into slave ships. But Bronwyn says that it's sad, and did they do the right thing? The family was yelling and screaming at each other. Miles feels that Sebastian will be fine, and he handled everything well. He needed us to be there for him, and we were there when he needed us. Bronwyn says that when she took Bash to bed, he mentioned that he wanted to pay the steel pan like Uncle Samuel. Who is that? In the middle of the night, there's constant knocking at the door. Once again, the delivery person is a mystery. Miles can't take it anymore. He has to open the parcel. It's school photos of Bash and Sylvia. And that is the end of the episode. And now it is time for your favorite part of the video. That's right, my review. I say it every week that Atlanta and the writers do an amazing job of communicating ideas and messages in such a short period of time. And that is very difficult to do. Now, a lot of the times people will say Atlanta is weird and I don't get it. Well, it comes off that way if you're a person that's really not into movies, if you really don't read a lot of novels that are translated into movies, if you're not into cinematography, camera work, detail, if you're not into those certain things, you will look at an episode of anything like, that's dumb, I don't get it. But a lot of people such as myself are able to really look at this episode or any of the episodes and catch the messaging. It's so important, you guys, to read a lot of books that are out of your comfort zone. A lot of things in this series deals with socioeconomical issues, right? Things that correlate with culture and wealth, legal systems, all of that. When it comes to history, if you're into things like that, these series, you pick it up quickly about what's trying to be communicated. There were so many things to dissect as usual in this episode, and I'll walk you through what my eyes caught. Now, a quick shout out to Telfer. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It was a quick little shout out in this episode. Now, Telfer is, I hope I'm saying it right, it's a luxury unisex fashion line. It's based out of New York City, and it had a breakout year in 2020. Liberian American Telfer Clemens created the brand in 2005, but now it's gaining more traction and popularity over a decade. It's like the rest of the world is trying to catch up. Now, what makes this bag such a thrust in the mainstream is as this rise of activism and social awareness due to the protests happening around the country and Black businesses having been experienced this uptick in sales. So this bag has one of the best winners when it comes to buying black, vegan faux leather, and the big TC. So it's like you're making this statement of support, and a lot of that collection goes to the continued making of these bags. And if you find any of these bags, good luck, because they sell out very quickly. Before I get into the depth and the crust of this episode, shout out to Chet Hanks. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Chet Hanks is the son of Tom Hanks, right? Actor Tom Hanks. And for a while, he grew up, quote unquote normal guy, white guy, talked like, with the American accent, or if there is an American accent, just regular English, whatever you want to call it. And over a period of time, when he got older, he started to adapt to Black culture and this swag. And he started to do a lot of interviews and walking the red carpet without his dad with this Caribbean accent. And people were like, okay, where is the accent coming from? Then a lot of people that he used to date, were Black. And I don't know if he's engaged now or married to someone that's Jamaican. But everybody's just like, dude, why are you talking like this? Like, what are you doing? So the writers, and shout out to Chet for actually being a participant in this episode, kind of like, let me take a moment to laugh at myself. He eventually said, okay, this is not the way I really talk. I'm not from Jamaica. And people were like, dude, stop it. Why? I mean, he would just, all the videos he would do on Instagram and all of that, he would use this accent. And people were like, look, you are just really, really blackfishing with the accent. Stop it. So he eventually stopped and then explained that he just thought that the culture was, fascinating, and he loved the accent. And people were like, okay, you need to say that. Like, stop, just stop it. So him being a part of this episode was absolutely genius. So let's get to the crust of this episode. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, there's been a lot of research. You talk about Harvard, Brown, Yale, this eye-opener of being aware of this Black nanny to white Manhattan children. It's this dynamic of which people of color, especially people in America who are Black, we know the history, right? We know the history of the Black slave, the woman being the rock of taking care of, breastfeeding, and upholding to white children. A good place to start with this episode, okay, is it's still happening with society when it comes to nannies. Okay, so in New York, especially in Manhattan, many photographers would just see how there would be black nannies, people of color. We talk about Chinese, we talking about Hispanic, taking care of white children, so much so that it's normal to see this. And a lot of photographers would be like, man, like, where are the parents? Where are the parents of these white children? So not even going from slavery, black slaves breastfeeding white children, taking care of white children. You had those children who adapted and were shown more love, and they were cared for more by the black slave, by the black woman. It's the same paradigm with what's going on now. You have different people of different ethnicities and locations who take care of these rich white children, and the children slowly adapting to the culture. And we see that with Sebastian in this episode. He doesn't even want an eggs Benedict. Plain, has no flavor. He wants the spicy curry, right? He wants something on top. He wants some flavor. Like, don't give me that. It's bland, you know? So he's adapting to that. His soothing of when he hears the sweet, sweet TNT song, the happiness, when they go into the prayer and he's saying amen and preaching, yes. And him having that connection with the culture when it comes to prayer. So he's adapting that. We also see the disconnect of him being closer to Sylvia than his own parents. They're so focused on getting their jog in, going to a yoga class rather than prepping his meals, right? Getting him started for the day, walking him to class, having the connection with those teachers. It's one thing to have a babysitter or a nanny, but when it comes to the emotional detachment, this episode brings that up. So in Manhattan's Upper West Side especially, we see still this dynamic of people of color raising wealthy white kids, okay? Or even if not being wealthy, their parents out of the picture and them being primary caretaker. More books and more selectives are showing this quote unquote norm of what the city looks like throughout the day. Caretakers not matching, right? These children. But it's not anything new. Let's also talk about the economic gap. If you've been looking at this series on my channel, I did talk about this wealth gap within America and how it's hundreds of years that has created this gap, right? When we talk about mass killings, when we talk about massacres, black business, black wealth, and this gap of having wealth in America, it's very far behind due to the deep-rooted history of racism in America. So while they're in bed, right, while the husband and wife are in bed and they're talking, here it is, Sylvia has passed away, and she's thinking of rationalizing what is the next step and what type of caregiver are we going to get. And when she said metropolitan, which we can translate into white, you know, her husband is just like, you know, Mouse is just like, well, that's expensive. And she's like, well, Sylvia was expensive. He's like, no, she wasn't expensive. So they know that Sylvia was way underpaid, giving this spectacular caregiving service and accepting paying her kibbles and bits, accepting not paying her well, but knowing that the white caretaker would be expensive, meaning they would get the pay that they deserved for all of the services. Sylvia rubbing his back, calming him, singing him, walking him to school, and walking him to not only school, but also taking him to his class and being engaged with the teachers. Also, when she mentioned, oh, well, you know, wouldn't it be great if he learned how to speak Mandarin? Oh, that would be great. And then him saying, you know how difficult it is to find a Chinese caretaker? That's another issue as well, where it's no secret that it's this demand of, okay, you're not black, and this gives some a little bit more comfort of you being Chinese, and it's a little bit more acceptable, and maybe people who aren't comfortable with necessarily having black people in their homes. This is a deep-rooted history of this stereotype of black women not being able to take care of their own children. But better yet, we have always been the foundation for America. Black women have raised white children. We raised white children in slavery, raised in each era of history. The black woman was the backbone of the white family. Okay. We have mammy. We have all of these negative stereotypes of it being negative. But in actuality, the Black woman was the one that kept everything together: breastfeeding, cleaning, teaching, nurturing, and then jealousy of those white families and having that relationship and having that connection. We saw that a little bit with Bronwyn in the episode of her. Can you believe the teacher said that, she had the nerve to ask me why we weren't there for the picture day, like in front of him, when you weren't there. Okay. Now let's talk about the ending. Of course, the ending I thought was beautiful, that even in her death, we can come to the conclusion that it was Sylvia's spirit that was delivering the photos, giving this underlining message of even in her death, she's still caring for and looking over Bash. The fact that Bash could look over at the chair and say goodnight to Sylvia, the essence of her still exists. Beautiful episode. Beautiful, funny things within this culture wise when it comes to people of color and funerals and emotions and all of that. They're like, hey, we don't mean to scare you, but this is what we do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we know somebody gonna fall out. We know it's gonna be some anger. We know it's gonna be probably an argument. It's kind of like the norm. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? And I got white friends and I've been to a white funeral and it was pretty quiet and calm. I mean, people barely talked, and that was weird to me. I'm like, why ain't nobody talking? Culture and songs. We're even talking about certain states where they have rituals of dance and seeing death as not the end, but the beginning, and them getting that sense of hearing the song and seeing the dances. Absolutely beautiful. So much to discuss and talk about that anybody could bring up and have a nice debate about over dinner of this one episode that's under an hour. I thought that was just absolutely beautiful, absolutely amazing. One thing that I didn't understand in this episode was, what was that picture that Miles was looking at the funeral? Like, what was that? Like, I don't know if that was a butthole, a tapeworm. Like, what the heck was that? And I'm zooming in trying to figure out, what did it say? Who gave him the drop message? And I see the name and everything, but I have no idea what that picture was supposed to symbolize for me. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Inventing Anna. That's coming soon. You can binge watch that. It's the Netflix original series. In the meantime, in between time, make sure to comment your thoughts below. Like this video. Subscribe to your girl. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and hit me up in the DMs if you're too shy. Let me know your thoughts. But make sure you comment below. I really want to see how you guys felt about this one. In the meantime, in between time, remember to take care of yourself and each other. Bye.